I'm Kevin Reynolds, director, and I'm fortunate enough to be here today to talk with Ridley Scott about his little gem of a picture, The Duelists, which I first saw in 1978 when I was a kid, just starting to make films myself. And little did I realize that some 24 years later I'd be here talking with Ridley about a film that profoundly affected me and had an enormous influence on me as a young filmmaker. The Duelist is a film that I would say probably 98% of the movie-going public has never had the opportunity to see, but it's magnificent. And to be able to sit here with a master filmmaker like Ridley and discuss what went into the picture and what some of his motivations were, and talk about it from a technical standpoint and as a filmmaker is just a real pleasure for me. And I hope those of you that are interested in such things will enjoy it as well. So without further ado, here's Ridley Scott. So really, can you tell me what the genesis of the project was?
This was the fourth attempt to do a feature film, and I finally met with Jerry Vaughan Hughes, and in fact, Jerry had written one more thing prior to this film he called The Gunpowder Plot, and I tried with that and failed.
The Guy Fawkes story?
Yeah. Yeah. And even though that's still sitting on the shelf, it's pretty good, actually. And but I thought the turn down meant that was final, so I said, let's go again. And at that moment, I was looking for public domain material because I couldn't afford to pay. I was paying the screenwriter, so I couldn't afford to buy a story. So I was combing through, various 19th century writers. And Conrad had this short story, which I learned later was a sketch for a much larger book about the Napoleonic era. And that's how The Duelist came about. I sent it to Jerry. Jerry said, I love it. And the upshot was he actually wrote the script.
It was necessary, I think, to establish Dubert as the hero of the picture, to involve the audience with him intimately, and to show him with a private life of any kind. In the early part of the story, he is simply soldier and duelist. In Conrad's version, he doesn't have a private life, particularly. So, sounds a bit ungallant, but Laura is produced to give him a private life. Once this is done, I wanted to use their relationship, which is a happy one initially, to show how the pressure, the anxiety of the dueling takes Dubert over and makes it impossible for him to care for her, really much to notice her. This life-centered relationship is destroyed by the whole death-centered business of the dueling.
What was your budget on this?
All in $900,000.
$900,000.
Which, even at the time, was, listen, it's a first movie.
Yeah.
We forget, you and I forget, or maybe we don't now, actually. We're grateful for any studio who says, okay, you got the money. So I was eternally grateful that they gave me $900,000 to make me go and make the movie.
Well, it's definitely all up on the screen. I'm assuming in this scene here, this first sword fight, that beautiful structure in the background that's up on blocks almost,
Yeah.
that's an existing structure. You
Yeah.
guys didn't build that.
There's nothing built in this film because I couldn't afford it. But in fact, this is interesting. It's the first day of principal photography. And the guy he's fighting, I think, is Alec Guinness's son.
Wow.
And Harvey said, I don't want buttons on these swords, you can see them. I said, okay, it's pretty dangerous. And Harvey had only learned to handle a sword for the last 2 weeks. So the special effects guy came up with a great idea saying, I've got it, 2 car aerials. So these are car aerials.
Really?
Yeah. And
Brilliant.
what you forget is that when he lunges, they've already slightly bent the aerial. So he actually went la and nearly ran his opponent through.
That's great. And Bill Hobbs was your fight arranger.
Yeah. Did you use Bill?
I used Bill Hobbs on Count of Monte Cristo.
Right.
He's great.
Well, the great thing about the sword organizer, the ranger, it is kind of choreography, right?
Yes.
And what was great about Bill is he actually understands that it's part of the drama.
Yes.
Right? It's 2 characters in a dialogue scene with steel. right?
Well, the thing people don't realize in a fight is the difficult thing is that you have to choreograph it so that the two actors know where the next move is coming from so they don't kill each other. But at the same time, you have to make it look like you don't know that next move is coming.
Exactly.
Gentlemen, general tryout.
In this scene, you get your first taste of this beautiful interior lighting, which to me is just the hallmark of this picture. Because when I first saw this film, I was very young. I saw it in Austin, Texas, and I was so taken by just the beauty of these interiors. How you let the dark side just fall off more. In most pictures I'd seen up to that point, they were all filled in. But they just let it fall off, and it was so beautifully natural.
Well, Frank Tidy.
Frank Tidy. Was that Frank or was that you?
No, a bit of each. Frank and I had done probably at least, of all the commercials I'd done, probably done at least 200 commercials together. So, you know, at that moment we were virtually phoning it in. There was no concern about me, how much is in the shadow. And Frank knew this is what I liked. And I don't mind if windows blow out. I don't mind if it burns out. I don't mind sometimes if it goes totally dark. And Frank just knew really how far to go. But that was great. And but it's the only film I ever did with Frank, actually.
You did fight a duel this morning. Of course. You make dueling sound like a pastime in the Garden of Eden.
Now, how did you come to select Carradine